I think architecture could really change people's lives. It really is the basis in which we live together. And shelter is really what makes a civilization. So architecture and its roots really have impacted our society and our culture and many other cultures throughout the world.
I've always wanted to do residential. I think from as early on that I can remember wanting to be an architect, I wanted to be a residential architect. Meeting Patrick and having come here 14 years ago, it was a perfect match for me for what I wanted to do. And I've had great opportunities since to work on wonderful projects.
I think to be a really good architect, you need to be the good listener, but you also have to be able to orchestrate the orchestra. And you need to be able to know all the instruments, know how to play them all, from helping the client help themselves to the contractors to understand what you're trying to achieve and why, being able to control costs, be able to convince zoning boards how to accept what you're doing and why. So my role is, marriage counselor, psychiatrist, real estate attorney, storyteller, all of those things wrapped into, being a good architect too.
One of the things I think that's unique about architecture is oftentimes we say that we're practicing architecture, and you're never really just doing it, you're constantly practicing it and looking for ways to get better and better.
A good architect always looks to the past to learn about the future. So there's always a sense of order and rhythm and scale and proportion, even with the Greeks and the Romans and their architecture.
I once heard a quote, if you don't know history, you don't know anything. Constantly as architects, we're looking at history and drawing on history, and it's setting precedents for the work that we do. And whether it's success or failures, I think there's always something to be learned.
I think what attracted me to New England vernacular architecture really is its sense of history, and that the architecture grew over time. So if there was a 1700s house and they built a barn, and then later on they connected the barn to the house and there was a livery stable or things like that, there's this clear definition of how the house grew over time, but yet the whole ensemble still works together. And that's very appealing to me because it's really hearth and home.
I really think New England's such a rich environment to work in and practice in, and has just wonderful precedents to draw on.
You can imagine a blacksmith making these wonderful old hinges on a door, and the stone base on the house that looks like dry set, or dry set stone walls, or variegated siding that still has the bark on the edge. So you can do these kind of materials in a more modern way, but those materials give you that recall to the past.
Creating a storyline is a device that helps give some direction to the design process and really gives some authenticity to the result.
It's a way to test yourself so you don't go too far off the beaten path as you start to develop the program. This was the original part, this was the next part that was slightly smaller, and then here's something else, so that the property has the sense of history that it was added on over time. And we can take a large program and break it into pieces that make it more manageable and create these moments on campus, if you will. And you can traverse across your wonderful garden to maybe a barn or a carriage house and have a family activity there, and having a holiday party with a big stone fireplace in your barn and a Christmas tree in front of a big glass window. I did that for myself. These are the kind of things that I think people appreciate in my architecture. I do scripting for a variety of reasons. I also want to get to know the people and the client. So I say, let's create the story of your family homestead to be. So tell me about yourself. Tell me about what your likes are. Tell me about your extended family. Tell me about the history of your family. It's a way of communicating that I can get more of the emotional aspect of their desires rather than just the narrative of 6 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a kitchen, a living room, a dining room, and a garage. Because anybody can give me that. I want to know about them. So there's a lot of reasons why I like the scripting, because it helps me early on get on the same page. At the end of the day, it's the novel of their family that we produce together. One of the things I really learned about in graduate school in urban design was understanding how to create an intimate outdoor space. Like Faneuil Hall Marketplace, the scale of the spaces between the market buildings, how that is an intimate space and how the building opens out onto those spaces and the textures and the materials. And you think about European squares, going down a little narrow street and then all of a sudden a place opens up. I mean, these are these things that I call elements of delight. I incorporate that even in my houses. These moments.
We've always taken the position that the interior should live the way people live today, with indoor-outdoor connections, being able to open walls of glass up, taking the outside in, family spaces that are communal and communicative between each other, private spaces, a den, a library, a place to go, a place to sort of retreat to in a house. Our work really continues to evolve as the client base evolves. Whether it's a younger client base looking for a more edited interior, or it's an older client that's looking to age in place. I think our architecture can adapt to that and continue to hold true to the brand on the exterior, but the interior can certainly take on a couple of different possibilities.
People now saying, let's do a house that's more modest in scale, that we actually use all the spaces. And I fully subscribe to that. It's not always about the individual product. We have to teach our clients. You need to understand the context in which you've asked us to work in. And you have an obligation to that community that you're about to be part of. It's all about scale, and it's non-ego driven architecture. It's not about you, it's about if you do your job really well, you're like the ghost of the night, nobody knew you were there, but yet you've created something of lasting value and appreciation for anyone who sees it or uses it.
There's a sense of intimacy there. There's a sense of this is where they're going to live, where they're going to raise their family. You know, as an architect, I find that a lot more rewarding, generating spaces that people actually live in on a daily basis.
I think it can be a very informative and very sharing and nurturing experience that really produces something that is very special and something that really becomes part of their family's life for multiple generations. Most of the people that are here are younger than I am. I mean, I still draw in a pilot pen and everybody else is on computers, and we do videos, and we can drive through the property and walk through the houses. And these are things that are really exciting that we can do quite easily in the office that even just a few years ago was not possible. I may write the narrative, but they're creating the video to go with the narrative. And that's where the new technology and the younger people and their knowledge and experience is a great blend, which really is exciting for me coming to the office every day. And it's really fun.
Here, everybody really has an opportunity to be hands-on in all facets of the project. Oftentimes you'd have myself or Patrick be the lead principal in charge, but on a daily basis, project managers are in contact with clients and answering questions and continuing to develop design. You know, we're always collaborating together on trying to make it better.
I mean, my role as a mentor is critically important in the practice, and that's what I tend to try to do as much as I possibly can. We really talk about, you know, what is it that we do that's different? How do we do it? And why do we do it?
His mentorship for me, as well as everybody else, I think continues on a regular basis. He's probably the hardest working person in the office, so that tends to rub off on people, and his energy and enthusiasm that he brings every day is certainly infectious.
I feel very strongly that this approach will continue, and I think that the clients of the future will still be able to have the same kinds of experiences in the firm if I'm no longer here, although I don't plan on leaving it anytime soon.